But I will say that what I think will happen is that traditional finance, every player will get tired and will no longer tolerate that their money is just sitting there doing nothing. This will not be acceptable anymore. You know, when you
so to continue down the rabbit hole, let's get back on track. DeFi, XRPL. So this is an event that's coming up. Okay. It is on Monday, May 26th. So that's in about, what, a couple days, 2 weeks from now. XRP Ledger meetup in Dublin. And one of their key talking points here goes on to say the agenda right there, right? So this is where we're going to start to get into the proof to back what we're saying to you all. From hype to implementation. Remember, I told you guys that right now, it seems like people, especially in the XRP army, are like, oh, this is hype. It's not going to happen. It's not. No, that's not what they're talking about. XRP is just for remittances and cross-border payments and settlement, da, 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 da. No, there is an aspect of utility that DeFi brings to these digital assets, which is exactly why ETH has been sitting in the #2 spot for the longest time. Because if you go look on DeFi Llama right now, ETH has the biggest TVL in DeFi. That is why, that is its powerhouse. But if it loses that threshold, once institutions, I believe, firmly start to implement themselves into DeFi, I believe to some degree, Ripple will be a competitor, or Ripple's XRP will be a true competitor against Ethereum, because the XRPL DeFi ecosystem, in my personal opinion, is going to scale way beyond Ethereum at some point in time in the future. That's my personal opinion. I don't have any proof to back that, but based off of the fact that institutions are coming into DeFi, right? I explained that at the beginning of this call, and Ripple has been partnering with hundreds of institutions. I don't think that that's for any reason, especially the lingo that Monica Long, David Schwartz, Marcus Infinger, Brad Garlinghouse, many other freaking Jazzy Cooper, many other individual participants from Ripple have been specifically focused on institutional DeFi and enterprise DeFi, right?
Which means the same thing. It's just another word for institutional DeFi.
So this is an agenda panel that they're having, from hype to implementation, operationalizing. Sorry, excuse me. This is a big one. Operationalizing institutional DeFi. Dang, that is a big word. Operationalizing. Jeez Louise. Institutional DeFi, exploring how institutions are moving from theory to execution, building new business models on DeFi foundations. Do you all see that? That's not coming from some, influencer. That's an agenda. That's one of their talking points. So, go ahead, Aqua.
Yeah, no, and I would say I agree with you as well, as far as, my opinion of XRPL definitely surpassing the Ethereum chain, because right now the Ethereum chain is basically, retail. I think it's like, some sophisticated individuals that are tapped into these institutions that have deployed the amount that's on there. But when we're talking institutional money, we're talking what, billions and trillions of dollars. I remember one video that you had shared, it was probably like last summer, and he was talking about there's a dam of liquidity in institutional money waiting to just flood in once these regulations come. So like when you're talking trillions compared to, maybe 80 billion right now, it's probably total value locked right now on Ethereum. It's totally going to surpass Ethereum for sure, without a doubt.
I agree and disagree with you. The thing that I disagree with you on is that it's just retail participants in Ethereum participating in DeFi right now. I think it's a mix. I think that there are some high risk institutions, hedge funds, people that are willing to, they're crypto native organizations on an institutional level participating in DeFi. Institutions are large organizations, investment firms, some maybe even family offices to a certain degree, just larger investors than your average retail investor that are participating in Ethereum's DeFi ecosystem. Now, big institutions like core banks, not yet. I say that because ETH staking has not been approved in its ETF yet. At least I'm pretty sure that has not happened yet. It's on the verge of possibly happening, where they're going to, legally be able to stake in these ETH ETFs and ETPs and so on and so forth. I might need to fact check me on that, but I'm pretty sure that has not been solidified yet, but it is coming. It's being talked about. I know that's for a fact. Just don't know if it's been approved not or yet, but that will open up the door for real big, huge institutional money to really truly flood in. in my personal opinion, is if they allow staking in these ETFs and these ETPs from these like institutional, custody providers, because these institutions, they would break these protocols on these dexes, like some of these dexes that operate, they would freaking break them if they came and put $500 billion on a freaking little tiny deck. Like, nah, it would break, man. It would be crazy, so, and they know that. And that's just one of their thresholds. It has to be an institutional package that can handle, in terms of its infrastructure, the amount of liquidity that they would be onboarding into this space. And so, I agree that ETH is obviously, of course, predominant, and one day it could be overpowered by a better network, a better chain, better protocol, so on and so forth. But that, institutions to some degree are participating. It's not just retail right now. Here's that video, by the way, of what you were talking about, that guy, Paul Brody.
There is behind this regulatory dam, because the numbers are just monumental, right? How much money is there? Well, let's start with the most liquid of the liquid, right? Bank deposits, stocks. It's called the Great Liquidity Reservoir. And I am going to struggle to convey just how much capital there is behind this regulatory dam, because the numbers are just monumental, right? How much money is there? Well, let's start with the most liquid of the liquid, right? Bank deposits, stocks, and bonds. $400 trillion. I'm not going to say all of this money is going into crypto, but quite a lot of it will end up in crypto. And
hundreds of trillions of dollars. It's not a joke. He was like, literally, he's like, look at this money, y'all. Okay. This is coming to crypto, but we have to see this happen first. But when it does, it's coming, in a nutshell, and I don't think people are ready for that. And people have to wake up and realize this is, and does have the possibility to send XRP soaring to these prices that we've all been expecting for the past years now, but it's going to take time. It is not going to be some overnight thing that happens tomorrow. It is going to be something that happens over an extended period of time after all these things come into fruition. And these things that we're talking about are for a fact coming into fruition. Regulation, clear custody solutions that are institutional grade, security measures that are happening, these tests, these liquidity shocks, these projects going bust. It's all the freaking test. It's all the birth of a new asset class. So yeah. Back to the proof. This is pretty cool. XLR Network posted this the other day. May 6, 2025, XRP ledger is undergoing a shift as the XRPL EVM sidechain. Keep in mind that anybody that transactions in DeFi on the XRPL EVM sidechain will be utilizing XLR for gas fees. Opens a new DeFi opportunity, right? That's right there at the top. And it says it ensures that XRP assets can be used productively, supports institutional real-world assets. Could XRPL become the biggest chain for real-world asset adoption? So it's not just us talking about this, right? We're not just speculating. It's seriously happening. And that's another thing, back to kind of full circle what we were mentioning. It's like the XRP army and just people in general don't understand that ETH has had a mature DeFi ecosystem for some time. Assets like Bitcoin, assets like Doge, assets like, there's many others out there, including XRP. XLM is another one, right? Has never really had a mature DeFi ecosystem where whales, larger investors, institutions can actually put their liquidity to work with these assets. And that is now for the first time ever about to change. Aqua said at the beginning of this call, by probably the end of this year, we're going to see much more mature and battle-tested protocols built out on the XRPL. We're seeing the Flare ecosystem unlock, idle XRP, being able to put your XRP, your Bitcoin, your Dogecoin to work, right? With F assets. I mean, this is huge. And so who really knows what the future looks like? But to some degree, we can all agree that it's a massive amount of money that's coming. It's just specifically putting idle digital assets to work. And the demand alone that creates is huge. And it's a niche category in crypto that, in my personal opinion, too many mother trucking people are ignoring. Because like I said back at the beginning of this post, I see everybody cheering. It's like, oh, yo, the market's going up. It's so cool, right? It's great. But you could be seeing your portfolio go up, the price of your portfolio go up. And then when the market goes back down, see the price of your portfolio maintain stability because you're earning yield and you're compounding that yield daily, every single day. In some cases, seconds of every single day. Go ahead, Aqua.
Yeah, no. You're spitting cold facts right now, bro. You're cooking right now, bro. That's funny that you brought this up right now. I was just gonna say, if you pulled up the Flare page real quick and just see what Hugo Filion said, and it's kind of along another post that you did. I think it was yesterday, where you had said it'd be idiotic to not be tapped into crypto right now in this moment in time, right? And then if you check out the Flare Network page, Hugo Filion says, this is his quote, this is his words, right? XRP is a vast asset. It would be idiotic for us to not build a protocol that serves it. Yo, just scroll down. It's going to be right here. You'll see it right here. Right there. Boom. Go up. You passed it. If you play it for everybody, that's his voice. That's his words. Like, he said that.
All right, hold up. Let's play it. Let's run it.
Yeah. Run that.
You guys have always kind of been XRP aligned, XRP friendly. And with the recent massive success of XRP and some kind of US regulatory friendliness towards XRP, kind of their vision playing out, you guys have been kind of vindicted and also have taken advantage of this opportunity. What would you say to kind of like people who are skeptical about XRP or kind of have a negative sentiment about XRP?
What would I say? I mean, most people in crypto have a negative sentiment towards XRP from what I've seen, and I get it. Like, crypto is incredibly tribal. From my perspective, I quite like XRP as an asset. I think it's interesting. I think the use case is interesting. I completely understand why people have issues with the central, what they perceive as a protocol that is less decentralized than Bitcoin. I would argue against that. I would argue that, this gets into very sort of religious territory, but I would argue that, one of the things that differentiates centralization and decentralization is the ability to fork the protocol when there is a huge disagreement. And the reality is that you can fork XRP. They come to consensus in a different manner.
Right.
And that's kind of like, sure, you can have disagreements with that. That's fine. But from my perspective, it's the third largest asset, excluding Tether. Maybe including Tether, I can't remember. But it's a vast asset. It would be idiotic for us, not to build a protocol that serves it.
Right.
Bro, it's so funny because it's like, again, he kind of hints at people's opinions and how people, this is not time. Okay. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but this is not time, if you haven't realized yet, to stop paying attention to people's opinions in this space. Okay. Reason being, and XRP is just a perfect example. I got an XRP back in 2017, buying it, end of 2016, rolling into 2017, lucky enough to buy most of my XRP well below 27 cents, some even below 11 cents. Right. So I don't want to call myself lucky. I was just in the right environment at the right time, tipped off about the right digital asset. And so, I remember going through the period, years of people saying, oh, XRP is never going back above $1. Look at it now. And it's obviously, of course, it's not, a significant amount by any means, going from a couple cents to $1.50, $2, $2.40 now, wherever it's trading. But, the fact of the matter is that it happened. And you see so many people out there that were opinionated over the years. And to backtrack on what you said, bro, a second ago, when you were talking about people on TikTok and whatnot and things of that nature, people are not good. I wrote this down when you were talking. People are not good at following trends due to emotional distractions. So people get distracted by people's opinion too often in this space. And instead, it would behoove you right now to pay attention to who's really operating behind the scenes and joining in and tapping with organizations that are already and have already been operating in the financial industry and ecosystem for some 50, 80 years plus. Okay. That's not by accident. That is by design. And so, because you're opinionated on something, because you're an impatient human being that is attached and gravitates towards your natural human inclinations to be fearful, to be nervous, to be, dopamine driven in terms of wanting instant gratification, that's natural. But put that shit aside. And when you pull apart the documents, when you pull apart the research and you really dig deep as to where this industry is headed, not tomorrow, because that stuff's irrelevant, but years to come, it is mind-blowing, the mindset shift that you have. And so I agree 110%. Now, XRP is not going to be the only asset, nor the one asset to rule them all by any means. But could its TVL, especially since we're on the topic of DeFi, could the TVL on the XRPL and the DeFi ecosystem scale from 80 million to 500 billion to maybe even $1 trillion plus in 5 to 10 years? 110%, bro. And anybody that denies that is delusional. Delusional, right? We're not sitting here looking for $10,000 XRP, because honestly, the price of XRP at this point now is irrelevant, especially if you know how to use your XRP or any other digital asset for that matter in an effective and efficient manner to generate yield, to put to work for you, to become, instead of a liability on your balance sheet, an asset, something that generates you income, or that brings you revenue, or that makes you wealthy. Like, y'all understand what's happening?
Yeah, facts. Yeah,
Bro,
stay away from the opinions, and then just, stay away from the fucking buzzwords, because I feel like the buzzwords too are like what people adopt, and they, it's great and everything. You're starting to understand the technology, but like if you have to use these buzzwords like Web3 and cross-border payments, that's not understanding crypto. Understanding what your digital asset can do for you, what we've been talking about this entire time in DeFi, that's understanding crypto right there. That's understanding what these institutions want to do. That's understanding what you can get going for yourself with the digital assets that you have in your cold storage, right? And that's how it's going to keep you in this is what's going to keep you in crypto for a lifetime. If you have an asset that's bringing you passive income and yield, why would you ever get rid of it? So you're going to hang on to this for a lifetime, and many lifetimes to come after that, if you teach your bloodline all this information and you make sure it's engraved in your bloodline's, minds that, hey, we got to pass this to generation so that we keep these assets in our bloodline. Because let's face it, we are legends to be in crypto in this moment, in this time, right? So basically it's going to be, this is a game of who can hang on to their assets the longest. You know what I'm saying? So
I definitely, again, I agree and disagree. I think it's a whole package, bro. I think what you said, you hit some really great talking points on the head. Like, back to what you originally said, if you don't understand DeFi, you're missing a piece of the puzzle. You kind of said it yourself. DeFi, crypto, it's a piece of the puzzle. Remittances and cross-border payments and all these things that people were previously focused on, that's kind of out of our hands as retail investors. Like, for us as retail investors, we kind of just have to sit back and allow the the private market participants to work with the public market participants to create this new financial infrastructure, to update our applications, to update our banking apps and all that. That's out of your hands. So albeit, yes, it's important to pay attention to that. That's not really the stuff, unless you're sending cross-border payments to a family member across seas, that you can really benefit from every single second of every single day. Where DeFi comes in, as that flips the script for average retail investors who have been pretty much excluded to every extent from yield generation in the traditional banking system. And it puts the power of the banks back in the hands of the people, right? Where if you're earning money, imagine in this future, and I want to get into this now, because this is a perfect transition into getting into more, proof. Imagine your, let's say, company, your organization enrolls themselves in the Zebic Pay network. And then they allow you, which if you don't know about Zebic, go and look up what they're doing with payroll on a global scale, and how they're enhancing payroll systems so that way workers and content creators or just everyday average 9-to-5 individuals can get their paychecks every day or every week instead of once a month or bi-weekly, right? I mean, that's massive. Just so imagine getting your paycheck, the money that you're earning every single day, at the end of every single day. And then you can go and you can take that deposit that you get on your mobile device and your banking application that's sitting on blockchain and DeFi rails. And you can then go and have an AI agent stake that money for you and participate in DeFi and turn that. Let's say you're making $100 a day or $200 a day. I don't know what the average 9-to-5 income is by any means, but you can go and you can earn 8% on that. You can earn 10% on that every single day. And then every single day, the next day, you're taking that money and you're compounding that. Your wealth is going to scale so much faster than somebody that's not doing it. And that is the transition that we're moving into right now. If you're not learning on how to do what I just talked about, I'm sorry, but you're slacking. You're slacking in crypto if you're just, like Aqua said, hodling, and you think that that's the end of the road, the know all be all, and you're going to be successful. That's a portion of it. But it's so much cooler when you realize the assets that are literally sitting in your cold storage could be sitting in your cold storage wallet while generating yield by participating in staking, by participating in securing the network, or by, there's so many different ways that you can participate in yield generation. Of course, there's many different strategies, but we have to wake up as a population and realize, as a crypto participant, that is what we now have access to. And if you're not going to use it, you're literally just abusing like your own, you see what I'm saying? Not abusing, you're neglecting the power that has been given to you, right? Because it has been, and it's hard for people to grasp because, again, number one, most people lack financial education or literacy at all about the traditional financial system. And then at the same time, we've been so fricked up, like screwed up in our brains over the past couple of years because of all these tests that these large players are running on us, liquidating freaking projects, doing all this stuff, rug pulls, all these scams. It's manipulating people to think that this is a scam, and it's not. It is not a scam, people. It is happening 110%. Back on topic. Flare Networks posted this out. Let's go down the rabbit hole. XRP5 thesis on Flare unlocks DeFi for XRP through liquidity, composability, and yield. Liquidity USDTO live on tier 1 central exchange Kraken for seamless on and off ramps. 1,700% stablecoin market cap growth and triple-digit yields in 1 week. Triple-digit yields. Y'all see that right there? Triple-digit yields. Composability F assets V1 live on Sonboard with strong demand. Unlocks unlimited minting. FXRP enables full DeFi participation across Flare's ecosystem. It says in all caps here, yield, XRP staking built by institutional partners. Okay, you see that right there. This is, again, confirmation that institutions are even pushing for this, to offer rewards plus protocol revenue by providing Flare security as a service. I'll leave that there. I'll let that breathe, right? If we continue, since Aqua mentioned double-digit yields, this was also posted by Flare. Okay, where they had posted this back on April 24th, 2025. And if you get to 8 seconds in this little video where it says it's happening all on Flare, it says and talks about double-digit yields. So Aqua, I wonder, bro, do you think, I want your perspective, where we are seeing these high yields, and when I say high yields, I'm not talking about the Deegan plays in DeFi where you can be earning 500% to 1,000% in a DEX in a day. I'm just talking about like earning 10% to 17% on stable coins, double-digit yields, right? Imagine earning 10 to 17% on your XRP. Do you think we're going to operate in a future where that becomes the new norm? And maybe right now we're skeptical about it because it's just never been given to us, and we can't imagine a future where that happens, but maybe it is.
Yeah, I think it is. I think because it's a decentralized environment and we're going to be able to play the game right next to these institutions, I think we're going to have access to what these institutions have had access to for a very, very long time. But now on steroids, because, there's more liquidity than there has ever been because we got real world asset tokenization and so many other things that are going to be, used as liquidity in our near future. So, yeah.
This is a crypto roundtable that's happening that's being hosted by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. I'm sure each and every single person listening into this call knows exactly who those people are. So you should probably pay attention, right? Crypto Task Force Roundtable Tokenization Moving Assets on Chain, where TradFi and DeFi meet. Now, I believe the official date of this roundtable got pushed back to June 9th, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody might be able to correct me on that, but either way, it is happening this year. The original date, I believe, was May 12th, 2025, as you can see here on their website. I'm sure that there are some clickable links that'll give you somewhere the updated date. Like I mentioned, the last one I saw was June 9th. But I want to show you guys who is on this call, because here at CYPRX, we, have been showing you all physical proof that they are telling you all, and when I say they, I mean these institutions, BlackRock, Apollo, Fidelity, on stage, that this is happening. So the speculative question that I just threw at Aqua, on our side in the CYPRX community, we know it was rhetorical, right? I knew Aqua was going to say, yeah, because we have physical proof that these institutions are for a fact pushing for double-digit yields and DeFi participation and being able to earn yield on their digital assets. So understand that when you know, we're talking about this. It's not just because we're waking up in the morning and sitting here saying, oh, this is going to happen. There's physical proof out there. So check this out. Robbie Mitchnick from BlackRock is going to be sitting in on this panel discussion, again, labeled When TradFi Meets DeFi. Christine Moy from Apollo is going to be sitting on this. And I'm not going to get into Cynthia Lowe. I've done it in a previous video from Fidelity, sitting on stage talking about how Fidelity is excited about earning yield in these ETFs and whatnots by staking. But check this out. I posted this video of Christine Moy. This is from the tokenized event where Securitize and Wormhole hosted a real world asset conference at the beginning of the year. And this is Christine Moy sitting on stage with Robbie Mitchnick just a few months ago. Mind you, she's the one that's about to sit on this panel discussion with the SEC, people. And listen to what she's talking about here in this video. Hold on.
But I can share with you the vision that I'm working towards, which is, okay, let's talk about how, like today, you know, when I get paid by Apollo, I get a deposit into, you know, my bank account. And, you know, on any given month, I might check my account and say, okay, my credit card bill is going to be this much. I have this much left to, you know, invest. Usually a hot mess. I'm working too much. So I'm like, maybe I'll just put it in treasuries and get whatever the treasury yield is, if at that. And it's like a multi-step process. I need to go press some buttons and call someone to confirm it. And then inevitably the next month I have to pay taxes and then I have to unwind out of that and like put it back into cash and then like wait until like my check clears. Now in a future world, you know, and this is what I'm working towards and building with each of you is, you know, I get paid into my crypto wallet. And in my crypto wallet, I have almost like a model portfolio designed that's customized to me. It's going to be 10% stable coins. It's going to be 20% BIDL, money market funds. It's going to be 25% Apollo private credit and like 25% Athena. Right?
Give me your pen, Robbie. I got to write this down.
Right. But like, imagine like I have like basically like a customized portfolio to my risk profile that says Christine at all times wants to have her account in this pie chart.
Yeah.
Right?
There's a smart contract that when the assets drop, it deploys.
It deploys automatically. And then what that means is that every last penny of my earnings is fully invested in yielding without me actually having to do anything. And what that means is that every last penny of my earnings is fully invested in yielding without me actually having to do anything. And then, you know, if I'm having Nobu at lunch and basically I use my Securitized debit card that's connected to my Securitized wallet, basically like, okay, here's like $100 to Nobu, that's an automatic swap of $100 out of my BIDL into US dollars, into USDC off ramp, like CU0 hash, off ramp to pay Nobu. And then essentially like that means not only is every penny of my earnings deployed, it's deployed up until the last second of which I actually spend it. Now,
no single person in crypto can tell me that institutions aren't talking about this. And I'm going to hold on. I'm going to blow your guys' mind because I don't like to just find one source. Here in the CYPRX community, we like to find multiple sources. So let me show you all that this is happening. So if you've been paying attention to what's been going on, we have Senator Cynthia Loomis saying yesterday that digital assets are the future. We either embrace them or we lose. There is not an in-between. Okay, that is coming directly from Senator Loomis. And I posted a video breakdown of Donald Trump Jr. sitting on stage with Zach from World Liberty Finance saying the same exact thing that Christine Moy was talking about and that Cynthia Lumens just said, that crypto is going to be the future. So now this is second confirmation. Again, I'm trying to show you guys multiple sources are saying the same thing. And World Liberty Finance, Zach, I don't remember his last name, goes on to talk about the same thing, that they're going to integrate DeFi into the back end of the financial system so that way everyday average retail investors can go from earning 0.005% in their checkings account to 8 to 10%. Right? This is huge, huge. This is massive. And to most people be like, oh, 8 to 10% is not a lot, but you have to understand that's 8 to 10% that you can make every single second of every single day, and you're compounding. This is crazy. And you're going to be able to do this not only on stable coins and dollars and treasury bills and tokenized assets, but also on these digital assets like XRP that can benefit from price appreciation. Like Christine Moy said, she mentioned having 25% in ENA in her portfolio. ENA is a digital asset right now that's worth maybe about 34 cents that most people don't even know, right? And she mentioned transitioning those profits into USDC and loading up her securitized debit card and paying for her lunch at Nobu and earning yield up until the very last moment that she spends it. So you have Cynthia Loomis saying crypto's the future, Christine Moy talking about integrating yield into traditional financial systems through DeFi rails. Listen to what these next two participants say.
how would you kind of stack rank the concept of digital assets for the relative importance?
I think it's perhaps the future of like American hegemony in terms of our economic status, our economic might. And, you know, I'm a late adapter, but I'm not an idiot. You see these things going, and like we're basically forcing this incredible technology away from America for the last few years. You're forcing them to go to places that people wouldn't even want to necessarily go, but they have no choice because they're not willing to risk their life, you know, or jail, or just not having that understanding. So, you know, I think it's probably as critical a topic as anything, because I think it's going to be the future of, you know, banking. You know, not just anything, because I think it's going to be the future of, you know, banking. You know,
I know nothing about crypto. Everyone's got a bank account. Everyone's got a debit card, right? Most of us have some sort of job that pays us. And the whole use and reason for having a bank account is so that you can get your money in it and you can go spend money. And if you have a savings account or a brokerage account, it's to grow that money and make it more useful, right? So our whole feeling is that DeFi can do all of these things better, whether it's self-custody of your assets, whether it's getting a better yield on your actual deposits by powering it through DeFi, or even spending it more freely. So our goal here for the retail side, and when I would speak about bringing in the next $100 million or 100 million users and the next trillions of dollars worth of liquidity into the space, it's not going to be by, you know, making people understand how to become a crypto native, making people remember a 24-word seed phrase that they, you know, bury in their backyard and give half to their mom and half to their Aunt Sally, right? Like, that's just not usable. So our whole goal here is to build a very familiar style Web 2 application that anybody, my mom, your mom, anybody could go on and use instantly. It feels familiar to them, like a Venmo, like a Robinhood, and allows them to earn, spend, and save all of their assets, whether it's their paycheck or whether it's their savings account or their brokerage account, in one easy to use place. And making it very simple, abstract away a lot of the crypto difficult stuff that's kept people outside the industry, and give people a better return powered on DeFi rails.
Now, I know we played that last week, but again, I'm trying to show you all that everybody on stage is saying the same damn thing. In all the videos that we're watching here at CYPRX, 20 people are watching them, 50 people are watching them, 100 people, maybe even. Nobody's paying attention to this stuff. Now, just two more videos. We got a gentleman here from the Solana Foundation. His name is Nick Dukoff. He talks about how old banking is dying. It's outdated. And everything is about to change in a future where we're going to see 24/7, 365 automated yield generation. And then I'm going to play another video back to back of Stacey Warden, right? The CEO of the Algorand Foundation, going on to give her perspective about the future of banking. These will be the last two videos that I play in this little tiny segment to show you all that everybody's saying the same damn thing. And then I'll open the floor, Aqua, real quick. So just take a second here and listen.
Connect your account through Plaid or whatever interface they have, and then move that money, which, you know, ACHs and takes a day or two, and then you can trade it. Maybe there's even another day before you can trade it. So you're talking about, you know, money coming in 2 days a month, taking, you know, 1 to 3 days for you to take that money and then be able to invest it in the market. That's lost economic value, right? Those few days. Imagine if your income is streamed to you daily. Imagine that you can borrow against future income. Imagine that the second that you have money, you can go buy something with it. And the second you sell it, you can go buy something else. That your money is earning yield that entire time. And then, as Stacey said, imagine taking assets that are yield generating and being able to use those as payment and settlement for goods and services. You know, we call this PayFi, and we really think this is the future of financialization.
We call this PayFi, and we really think this is the future of financialization. Aqua, I don't know if you needed to unmute for a second, bro, because you was nodding your head. You were vibing with that.
Yeah, man. I'm just saying, because, like, you know, I come from the absolute bottom. You know, growing up, I lived in Section 8. You know, like I come from the absolute bottom, and I've rise to the top. You know what I'm saying? And what he just said right now is an opportunity for people that may be, you know, not where they want to be, and they can leverage this and really get ahead if they are clever and witty and tap into this information to be able to get paid every 2 days, right? And to lock it up, earn some yield before the bills are due. That's a new type of thinking with this new technology that could change people's lives, bro. And you can be anywhere in the world to do this as well. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, you know what's crazy is I agree with you, and the thing that people need to wake up and realize is if you are, I mean, and I say because we all are, every average day individuals. I'm no different. You know, I just took initiative to change my life around 9 years ago. However, it's just like same thing with Aqua, right? I was in the military for 5.5 years. When I got out, had no real direction, kind of invested in Bitcoin early on, heard about XRP back 2016, 17 when I got out of the military, made a big investment into it, and then was able to pop off my entrepreneurship career outside of that, but still an everyday average individual. Well, the thing that people need to understand right now is that we still have about a year to 2 years, maybe even 3, before 2 billion to 3 billion people catch on to what's happening. So you can literally position yourself ahead of the vast majority of the population right now by tapping into some degree to what we're talking about. Now, I know that mentorships aren't for everybody, and some people think that paying for a service is they're going to further they're going to further their education for free, so they take the free approach. Or maybe you don't have money, I get that, but start whether you pay for a mentorship, whether you start reading documents, whether you start doing research, just freaking start. Because if you can tap into DeFi, and right now maybe your income isn't being streamed to you daily, but if it's being streamed to you bi-weekly, again, not financial advice, you should be figuring out how from every single paycheck to paycheck, if you're making or have an extra $100 laying around, you can turn that $100 between one paycheck to the next into 120, right? Into 130, into 105, into 101 even. So that way your money's working for you from paycheck to paycheck. And right now, you can do that with DeFi, and you will 110% start to slowly make your way ahead of every other freaking person on the face of this earth. Because if you go look at the statistics, most people are in debt. Right now, imagine if you have credit card debt, you learned, because people are, especially in our community, paying their debt off fast as shit with DeFi, right? You can do that. If you have bills, like maybe you got a water bill and you got a food bill every 2 weeks, you spend $200 on food and you're living paycheck to paycheck, tight as shit. Learn how to make your paycheck work for you and buy that food for you and freaking pay your water bill, which I know for a fact is happening right now. Why? Because even myself have committed to doing things like that. There are so many different strategies and approaches that you can take. Money is not real, people. They've been printing money our entire lives. DeFi puts the power of the banks back in the hands of the people. We can literally put our assets now to work, whether that's stable coins, whether that's digital assets, right? You can generate income through a freaking mobile device and internet connection that is powerful. And so many people, because they're so manipulated into believing that the only way to become rich is to do it overnight with price appreciation, they're sleeping. Slowly but surely, if you go to any institution, what do they talk about? Risk management and maintaining a rising equity curve outside of security measures. Those are like the top 3. Security, well, I'd throw in there, Dan, there's a lot. Obviously, of course, they want to keep their clients happy, right? But still, regardless, security, right? A rising equity curve, and when you start thinking like an institution long term, right? How can I survive? Not tomorrow, not today, but 5 years from now. DeFi is one of the ways to do that. And it's slowly but surely and puts you ahead of 90. I mean, think about it. If there's only 7% of the population right now invested in crypto, okay? Think about that. And then in crypto, there's only like 10 to 15 million active DeFi users out of 600 million crypto users. So you're ahead of the head of the head of the head of the population that's already small that's involved in crypto if you're in DeFi. That is like, you know what's even crazier is I even have been in circle groups of people that have very large amounts of DeFi, or sorry, excuse me, large amounts of crypto, right? They're whales almost in a sense, and they don't even know about DeFi. So it's just physical proof that a vast amount of people in crypto itself don't know about DeFi. And it's, you know, again, you have to have a risk adjusted approach. You have to know a strategy, and you have to be willing to expose yourself to it. But once you dive in, let me just end it here because I know I'm going on a rant. The crazy part is most people think to participate in DeFi, you have to risk your money. You do not. You're literally just risking time. You're wasting time if you're not educating, watching videos, reading documents, learning, soaking up content, joining communities that are having weekly discussions. We have 2 weekly Zoom calls every single week, just specifically on DeFi, from our profitable mentors in the DeFi ecosystem that you could literally tap into and ask any questions. That's crazy. And the fact that more people are not committing themselves to doing that just shows that communities that are going to supersede those portions and parts of the population. That's what's happening. We are in a wealth transformation, and people think that the only part of that wealth transformation is price appreciation. That is a sad, sad way of thinking. I'm telling you all, you got to change that mindset. Got to change that mindset. Go ahead, Aqua.
Yeah, there's too many ways over here in crypto and DeFi. I mean, even real world assets as well. Like if you're a real estate investor, I would go take a look at Lofty because you can tap into all of the liquidity of all of your properties once everything is tokenized at any moment, which is absolutely astonishing and unbelievable. But it's real and you can do it. So yeah, if you're a real estate investor or you own a house, definitely go tap into Lofty because that's another side to DeFi that is going to be mind blowing once you go check it out. So
Lofty is a protocol built on Algorand. This is the Algorand Foundation CEO. This is Stacey Warden. Let's know what she says about the future of banking.
Keeps coming up with these new innovations, but I will say that what I think will happen is that traditional finance, every player will get tired and will no longer tolerate that their money is just sitting there doing nothing. This will not be acceptable anymore. When you hold collateral with your bank, and your bank is of course earning money on your collateral, but you're not earning money on your collateral, your initial margin, your variation margin, all of that, putting the ability to embed yield and with quick transferability, that combination is incredibly potent. And so I'll give you just one kind of far out example of that is I will take my Aberdeen money market fund, which is yield bearing, and I will go to your coffee shop and I will buy a cup of coffee with my tiniest sliver of my Aberdeen money market fund, and I will be earning yield until I hand this to you, at which point you will be earning yield on this little tiny piece. So, cash is an asset, apartment building is an asset, they're all assets. This continuum will get just completely blurred and more liquid, I think.
Bro, what she just said is so powerful. Literally, if I'm earning yield every single second of every single day up until I spend it, and I'm a consumer and you're a business, and I come in and then I purchase my coffee, whatever, to you, and then you take that money and all your systems are on DeFi, then you as a private business owner, maybe you're a small mom and pop's coffee shop, you take that money and, maybe you don't have enough money to pay rent as a mom and pop's coffee shop off just regular sales, but then all those sales you take and the portion that's profit, you put it into a DeFi, protocol or whatever, right? And you start generating yield, then you might have enough money to survive and freaking make it through and pay your building rent and this and that, or buy extra things for your clients and make your experience better. Bro, I love being a millionaire, bro. Like it makes you so intellectual. And the crazy part is because my millionaire mentors, they've always told me, humble yourself, right? Because a thousandaire sounds smart until he comes in front of a millionaire. A millionaire sounds smart until he comes in front of a billionaire, and a billionaire sounds smart until he comes in front of a trillionaire. Bro, I love learning and just being financially successful and learning and tapping into this. It is another level, bro. It's another level. And it's so amazing that I was able to stumble across this knowledge and information and spend it with like-minded people like yourself, bro.
Yeah, no doubt, bro.